All right. Hello and welcome everybody to a marketing agency near you collaboration webinar with our friends, our clients, and community resource for business sales and purchases. VR Business Sales, Bucks County, PA. We're joined by Ed O'Sullivan and Jennifer Gaynor, the owners, managers, and principals of the agency. Little backgrounds about VR. They are a full-service business brokerage firm based in Newtown, right here in Bucks County, where we're at. Proudly supporting business owners through Bucks County and the greater Mid-Atlantic region. So they're backed by VR's global legacy, VR Business Sales Mergers and Acquisitions since 1979. And the firm, it specializes in VR, which is valued representation, leveraging deep financial, operational, and negotiation expertise to guide middle market, privately held businesses through confident, integrity-driven transitions. What does that mean for a seller? It means you're going to get the best value for your company as you're exiting. What it means for the buyer, due diligence, all of the boxes checked off, making sure this is the business. It's going to be a cash flow and profitable business that you want to buy. Simple results with some pretty complex processes in between, which is where Ed and Jen come in. And the presentation today is about building to sell. So every business owner should have some sort of exit plan, whether that means handing a business off to a next generation, selling it in part, holding on to it in part. Always have to have an exit plan. So in order to do that, you want to build to scale and sell. And that's what Ed and Jen are going to talk to us about today. So Ed, if you could fill in the gaps on anything I'm missing as far as VR, please do. I know we got, mergers and acquisitions are technically part of the service offering, but not the subject of today.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Appreciate you having us here. Our firm does exactly that. We advise business owners and entrepreneurs about the world of business acquisition. A lot of folks have a growth through acquisition strategy. So a lot of the buyers we're dealing with are in the industry, professional. A lot of the sellers that we deal with, the business owners, they have never done this before. They're really good at their business. They know how to own and operate whatever business they're in. But when it comes to all the subtleties of the transaction, things like that, that's really where we specialize. Just a quick backstory. Our firm was spawned from our own inspiration. We had purchased a business and operated that business and then eventually transferred that business. That experience led us to what we do now. We can kind of look at every opportunity from different angles, having been there, been in those shoes, things like that. It really allows us to provide a high level of service to our clients. So what we try to do is help people in the community understand some of the things that affect business value, hurt the transaction, help the transaction, things like that. So that was going to be the focus of today's webinar.
Love it. So you experienced the building, the buying, the selling, the whole gamut, and then were able to form your own agency to facilitate that process in a way that you feel best serves businesses on both sides.
Yeah, and if we say we've been training for this our whole career, but if we know what we know now, we might have done things differently. We definitely were not the experts then, and in hindsight's 2020. So we'd love to share some of what we learned and help other business owners.
Well, that's fine, because you know what? Ryan Reynolds says he was training for Deadpool his whole life. And sometimes you got to get through a Blade 3 and The Proposal to get there.
Yeah.
So, Jen, do you want to kick us off, or?
Sure. So what we prepared today is just a little presentation to help business owners who are interested in selling a business or contemplating selling a business. We want to show some things that will help prepare for a business sale and to prepare to get the most value for your business.
And just so everyone is aware, Jen and I work as a team with our clients. I handle a lot of the forward marketing type things that are associated with the business, and Jen does a lot of the financial detail analysis, due diligence, things like that. So when folks work with us, they actually are getting two two agents, so we get different perspectives, which often helps balance things out.
Yeah,
So,
we like to say you get two brokers for the price of one.
I thought we'd start off with some interesting statistics here. Can you see my screen?
Yep, you're live. You're presenting, Ed.
All right, wonderful. So around 11,000 baby boomers turn 65 every day. In 2024, LendingTree reported that people 55 and older own 52% of U.S. businesses. So think about that for a minute. More than half of the businesses in the United States are owned by people over 55. And then 11,000 of those turn 65 every day. You can see that 60 to 70% of businesses simply close. That's technically 500,000 plus annually in the U.S.
So that's just a staggering number, opportunity-wise, for somebody who wants to purchase a business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because a lot of folks are not aware of things they could have been doing all along while they're operating their business, which could make their business marketable and saleable. The reality is a lot of people just create jobs for themselves, and then that's really hard to transfer. So 60 to 70% of them simply close their doors. The businesses that do get listed for sale, only about 20 to 25% of them actually sell. So that's another interesting statistic. And then when businesses have under 1 million in revenue, the success rate drops even further.
All right, so we're talking now a mere sliver of a percentage of that original figure of the 60 or 70% close. So that's, we have 30% now we're working out of 500,000, and only, well, and those might have not even be listed for sale. Some of that number may end up being inherited or passed on or reorganized, I suppose.
Yeah, it's crazy, but people can prevent that. They can do things along the way, which will help them, have a better chance of transitioning their business successfully. So I just thought that was interesting that we'd share some of those stats. Why this matters is because most owners wait till it's too late. The decisions they make today affect the outcome in 5 or 10 years from now. So we got to drill that into people's heads. Hey, everything you do now is affecting the future. A saleable business is also a healthier business. So what business owners can realize by taking the time, investing, doing these things, and I'm not talking just financial investment, putting things together. You'll see later in the deck that, there's things you can do that will have a huge return. And typically you're making your business more saleable, but you're also making it more profitable and healthy. So usually when we do evaluation, we can command higher multiples. And we say that selling is not an event. It's a process that starts long before you ever list your business for sale. Jen, you want to take this one?
Sure. All right. So what makes a business sellable? So these are some key points that make a business more valuable, that are, relatively easy fixes for a business owner in a small business. And these are things that buyers are looking for. So the first is clean books and records. Many small business owners do their own bookkeeping in-house, which is fine. But I think it is valuable every once in a while to maybe bring in a professional bookkeeper or have your accountant really go through your categories and really analyze what you're doing, making sure it all makes sense and that it's consistent year after year. Documented systems and operating procedures. If you as the business owner are the only person there that knows how to run this, how to do that, how to fix this equipment, when you leave, that knowledge goes away. So value is going to go away. So having documented systems really helps keep some value, and that continues with having a management team in place, making sure you are not the only person there that knows how to run the show, that has key relationships with important clients or vendors. You should be able to leave, take a vacation for a couple of weeks, and know the place is not going to burn down without you, because you have people and systems in place to keep the business running. There is so much value in that. I think a lot of small business owners think, they say, well, I've been working 12 hours a day for the last 20 years, and I put everything I have into this business. That must make it worth something. And honestly, in a lot of times that type of work situation makes the business less valuable, because if they pluck the owner out and that one person that's been, working their butts off is not there anymore, nobody else can fill that gap. That's more selling a job than selling a business. Buyers are not interested in buying a job. They want to buy a business. So management team in place is a huge value driver, which leads to minimal reliance on the owner. Again, you should be able to take off half a day, go golfing on Friday, take a family vacation, and know that the business is not going to crumble.
So required reading being the E-Myth Revisited, because that's half of what you're talking about right there. And even just the bare minimum paperwork in place to be able to qualify for a loan.
Right.
Yeah, and again, a lot of this stuff is just common sense. It's just, you got to think about it. You got to be reminded of it, and it, take 20 minutes here and there. Write down a procedure. Something that could just be ongoing. But
well, and this is what isn't taught, and why I'm very passionate about doing this. Sorry to derail, but I think it's a point that needs to be continuously made about creating systems and a business rather than just a high-paying job for yourself.
Yeah, agreed. And then, to segue into this slide, I'm going to let Jen know this, but a lot of times when you're selling a business, the buyer doesn't necessarily have cash. There's banks involved, there's funding, there's different things to consider. And, if you think the buyers are tough, the bank underwriters are really tough. So, Jen, do you want to talk about what spooks buyers and banks?
Sure. So this kind of piggybacks off of the previous slide, but what spooks buyers and banks, again, messy financials. If you cannot answer questions about your financial documents, that's kind of a red flag, right? If you don't know why, your cost of goods went up, by 20% from the year previous, you don't have your finger on the pulse, right? So you really need to have clean financials and know what they mean, and know why there's discrepancies, know why maybe expenses went up or down, or sales went up or down. You really have to be running your business and able to answer questions. Again, the owner is the glue holding it all together. This goes back to that same point. You need like a manager, middle management in place. And some examples for different types of businesses. If you have a service business, as the owner, ideally, you're not in a truck going out every day doing the tech work, right? You have your employees, you have your techs, maybe you have a lead tech that's kind of managing the other guys and helping run the show. You're a little more in the office running the daily operations of the business. You're not actually doing the work, right? If you have a auto repair shop, you're not the one in there turning the wrenches, right? You have your mechanics. You're the one in the office running the show, managing it from that seat. So having, key employees and managers in place is so valuable. If you have no formal process or team, this is the same, you can see the theme. This is the same theme where you need to have written procedures where you are not the only person that knows how things are done, and your business is not just living in your head. It has to be transferable. If your lease is about to expire, right? If somebody doesn't have a place to run this business, how valuable is it to them, right? So if the property is leased, a good relationship with the landlord, a good lease that can be transferred, or a lease with a number of years left on it, or options to renew. That's really important. So too much customer or vendor concentration. So, if more than 20% of your business is coming from one key customer, that's a bit of a red flag, right? Especially with transferring a business. If the business owner is the only one that has a relationship with this customer, and when that business owner leaves, there's a good chance that customer is going to leave too. That's a problem. Same thing with vendor concentration.
Yeah, those last two things, actually, we personally underestimated when we were selling our business. We thought it was a good thing that we had a short lease. You know, if someone wanted to move it, it was flexible. Not the case. Banks want to see a full term of the loan lease. And we had two really big customers that we thought, this is great. We got these great, huge customers. It's consistent revenue. There's a downside to that where they, you know, like Jen said, if they make up more than 20% of your revenue and something spooks them or they leave or get something else and your revenue could be impacted by 20% all of a sudden overnight, that's a big scare. So buyers don't like that either. So business owners got to be aware of these types of things, and you know, what someone might see as good, someone else might see as bad. Jen, you hear these often.
Yeah, most common regrets we hear from business owners. I should have started prepping earlier. You know, a lot of business owners unfortunately come to us when they are just, I'm ready to retire. You know, 6 months from now, I want to be out of here. I want to be, you know, down in North Carolina playing golf, which is wonderful, right? We want everyone to have their retirement dreams as part of what we do. But it takes some time, right? So if you're just, I want to sell my business tomorrow, you're a little late to the game, right? Preferably, you know, people come to us or seek, you know, advice from, you know, business coaches or the like, to really prep to sell the business. There is prep work that has to be done. The second thing, I didn't realize how hard it is to replace myself. Again, you know, the same theme that I've been talking about. If, you know, an owner has been the one doing everything for the last 25 years, yeah, you can't replace yourself in one day and just transfer all of that work and that knowledge that you've gained, just like, you know, drop of a dime. I underestimated how picky buyers and banks can be. Yeah, this is a tough one. Buyers are very picky, and they should be. You know, they should be comfortable that they're buying a solid business. And as far as the banks go, there's even less wiggle room there. You know, buyers sometimes, you know, there is an emotional element, right? That they're going to check the financials and it's got to check all their boxes. But if it's a business they really like or an industry they really want to get into, they might be a little more likely to say, all right, well, I'm not thrilled about this, but I'll let that slide. I'm still interested in the business. Banks are not going to do that. There is zero emotion when a bank is lending money to a buyer. So banks have their requirements and they have to be checked off, and there is no wiggle room there.
Yeah, bankers are always fun. They, it's not so much the bankers as their underwriting. They scrutinize everything these days.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting. I'm kind of spinning just like numbers in my head from a P&L standpoint. Is a banker can probably, I don't know, do banks like ask for SOPs and procedures, or can they eke out from a P&L or EBITDA what if the owner is an operator? And I'm thinking if you have a full staff and the owner is there basically taking their draw, that shows up on a P&L.
Yeah.
Where that's actually a healthier business than a business operating at a higher margin with less revenue, because they have less of a staff and less of a team.
Right. Yeah. And another thing the banks would look at is the buyer in this industry? Do they have experience in this industry? What does their background look like? So that's a big thing too.
Yeah, and Dan, so usually when we list a business, we prepare what we call a SIM, a confidential information memorandum, where it kind of summarizes the whole business from a, you know, what are their marketing efforts? What are the financials look like? What is the the competitive landscape? Where are the strengths? Where are the weaknesses? So we kind of prepare all this information into one nice little SIM packet, business profile. And then often the bankers want to see that too. That helps them understand. And often there's a recasting of the numbers. So there's adjustments that get made. A lot of business owners have personal perks and, you know, the car or the health insurance, things are being put through the business. We just need to pull them out and show that to a potential buyer that, hey, you benefit the same way. So there's a whole recasting that happens.
Sure. And then, you know, the buyer makes the decision, are those perks right for them? And does that get added back into, you know, it's no longer an expense, it turns into profit. So
That's exactly right.
that makes perfect sense to me.
Gotcha.
Yeah, for all those nuances.
So I deal a lot with the buyers. We've got to kind of dive into their headspace. We often spend a lot of time with our clients on the sell side to make sure they understand what buyers are thinking. So buyers, when they ask certain questions, they have alternative, reasoning behind it. Can this run without the owner? Again, like Jen said, we're seeing a theme here. What happens if a top employee leaves? How accurate are the books? Where's the opportunity for growth? And basically, how risky is this? So risk is a big factor, and everyone's got different risk tolerance. So it's a little bit, you got to think of like the buyer. So we often get our business owners to think it's not personal. They're not asking about this because, they just want to understand it so they can make up their own decision. So here's some action steps that a business owner can take right now. Excuse me. We kind of covered a lot of these. Clean up your books, keep your business. We didn't touch on this one, and your personal stuff separate. A lot of times it's easy to use the same email, things like that, where you want to kind of separate your personal from your business if possible. And if not, it's just a slow process. When you renew your Microsoft, you might want to put that in a different name. Things like that, because often when you sell a business, it's an asset sale. So phone numbers, web addresses, social media accounts, email addresses all get transferred. So if there's personal information in those emails, we want to try to avoid that. Document your procedures. We start small. Like I said, just jot down how to pick an order, how to greet a client, how to, off-board someone. Delegate client-vendor relationships. You want other people having relationships with your clients and your vendors. So if you're not there, that's just a quick, easy way. Hey, this is Bob. He's going to be filling in when I'm not around. Or let me introduce you to Missy. She's great. She'll take good care of you, kind of, when I'm not here. So start doing things like that. Think about your lease. I just recently had a client who has a month-to-month. And I said, listen, we got to get ahead of this. We want to make sure no one's going to buy the business unsure if they have a place to do business. So things like that, and get a valuation, even if you're not ready to sell. Of course, we offer valuation services, but it's a good idea to have like a benchmark where you're at right now. There's different reasons for valuations. We do what we call, or Jen does what we call market valuation. So we compare it to other businesses in the same industry, in the same market, that are similarly sized, doing similar things. So having that benchmark is a good start sometimes. Often it can keep people grounded in reality. There's often a valuation gap between what it's actually worth and what someone thinks it's worth.
Just like real estate.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah. And with the business valuation too, I think for a lot of small business owners, their business is their biggest asset. So for retirement purposes, it's really great to have an idea of what that's worth, because most people don't know what their business is worth. And as your biggest asset, I don't know how you can go forward with retirement planning without really knowing what is this asset worth, right? I mean, you meet with your financial advisors, maybe quarterly, you get your statements monthly, right? So you know what your investments are worth, you know how much money you have sitting in the bank, you have an idea of how much your property is worth. But most business owners don't know how much their business is worth. So even if you're not ready to sell, or that's, still a few years down the road for you, getting a valuation, I think, is just a great idea for retirement planning and other financial planning.
And we are popping that link in right now on how to contact you lovely folks for kicking off that valuation process.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And it starts with a conversation. They're not locking into anything with you. It starts with a talk and a conversation. Simple as that.
Yeah, and we want to help them sincerely. We've kind of been in business owner shoes, and we want them to understand some of these variables, which is a great segue into this case study here. So you use what you call a multiple when you're valuing a business. There's multiples of revenue, there's multiples of sales, multiples of sellers' discretionary earnings, different ways to value a business. In a lot of businesses where the owner is involved in the daily operations, we'll use a multiple of SDE, which is sellers' discretionary earnings. So in this case study here, we've got a business with a very dependent owner. We used a multiple of 2.8, which is average. It's a good business. Between 2 to 3 would be the average multiple. if the business is really strong and has a lot going for it and is not like all the things we just mentioned, owner dependent, has contracts, repeatable, reoccurring revenue, things like that. So when we took this business originally, it was valued at 1.8 million. We used a 2.8 multiple because it was very owner dependent. That's high risk.
And that multiple, that's rubric driven based on your valuation?
Yeah, that's done through market research of comps, kind of.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the business owner made some changes, added a manager, cleaned up some books, got a new lease, which that whole process took almost 2 years. And when it was all said and done, we were able to do the 4 times multiple. So the multiple went up. 90% of that cash was at closing, which was a $2.6 million, which was an $800,000 increase. So you could see how very little things can have a huge impact on the value of a business. Just by hiring an ops manager, working with your accountant to undo some of the stuff you've been doing for the past couple of years, get the lease in order, we got $800,000 increase. So that was just a study I wanted to share where it can have real life impact.
Yeah.
I always love this comic, I guess you call it. I put 40 years of blood, sweat, and tears into this business. This barely covers the blood.
Mm-hmm.
We have this conversation a lot. This is very relatable to small business owners. We want to help them get some at least sweat and tears out of that too.
Yeah.
So final thoughts. You want to build a business that someone else would want to buy, not just one that you want to escape from. So start planning now.
Mm-hmm.
We don't do the coaching and the consulting. We have other people depending on where the business weaknesses might lay. We handle a lot of the transaction part of it, but we do have a deep network of people. Let's say marketing is a weakness. Someone like your firm, Dan, can be a great resource to help someone get some notoriety in the business, in the industry. It could be a financial need. It could be a leadership need. So we've got a whole bunch of people that we work with that we would refer and help people get their business to a point where it's sellable. That would be our goal.
Mm-hmm.
I love the whole start now and start simple aspect, because it's almost overwhelming. I shouldn't say overwhelming to me, but it's in the future as far as exiting my business, and it seems way bigger than what I'm at right now. However, having everything separated, bank accounts, credit cards, login information, all severable and distinct from my personal accounts, massive. Even when I transitioned from a freelancer to running an agency, I had to do another degree of that, from all my business stuff to now the second business stuff. So there's a lot of layers to it, but there's so many small items that you can check off to put yourself in this position.
Yeah. Yeah.
SOPs and procedures, there's never been an easier time to get that done with video, with AI and ChatGPT. Missy, it grinds us hard about our SOPs internally, for every process imaginable, and she is rightfully so for doing so.
Yeah.
But I hate doing it. So we cheat by recording Loom videos, taking the transcript of said Loom video and running it through ChatGPT with our framework of SOPs, which is as simple as, here's the process, here's why we do it, here's the objective, here's who's responsible, here's the steps, here's the tools, here's who you escalate to.
Yeah, I guess I don't use AI for many things, but I'd imagine if you're documenting procedures, like you just mentioned, AI would be a great tool just to digitize things and put it down on paper, quote unquote.
And dump it into a Google Doc or a Microsoft Doc, which is now under your business email, of course. And there you go. Now you have your SOP database started.
Right. And the sooner you start it, obviously, the easier it's going to be. And, start now before there's a deadline, right? So you're not operating under this deadline, where you can just work on these things when you have a little bit of time, or set aside a certain amount of time a week where you're going to say, all right, let me start picking through these things and taking care of some of this stuff. And I think, separating the business from the personal is a big one people don't think about. I think financially, that's kind of, people generally have separate credit cards for business and personal. That's kind of an easy one. But when it comes down to the techie stuff, right? The emails, the iCloud accounts, where are your photos going, right? Are your personal photos dumping into your business iCloud? Like people don't always think about that, and they don't always know how to separate that. That can be a tricky thing sometimes, especially if you're going back, oh my God, I have to go back through 20 years of emails. Where am I getting personal emails to my business account, and that's on the business server, right? So that's something I think that falls through the crack and is hard to untangle for most people. They don't have really just the wherewithal on how to do that. Like a lot of times you have to bring in an IT person to help you figure that out. And the sooner you get that sorted out, obviously the better position you're going to be in.
So not necessarily a deal killer, but damn sure a deal delayer until that's cleaned up.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And we've even encouraged our clients to set up like new Gmail accounts so we can correspond outside of their network, things like that. I've heard of people getting separate phones, like literally just a phone that is directly to them to avoid having to go through, who's this? Can I take a message? Because most of what we do, all of what we do is confidential. So when we're speaking to people, buyers, folks, we're not giving the names of the business or certain details until they've signed a non-disclosure, been vetted. We want to protect the integrity of the business. So making sure all your ducks are in a row and lined up from a confidentiality standpoint is important.
Yeah, that puts an entire like advocacy and almost fiduciary aspect on the whole service that you provide with that layer.
Yeah, we have like a secure data room that we use where clients can upload. We're not asking them to email their tax returns to us or things like that. So little things like that, we try to make it a little better experience, like valued representation. We want to, help them have a good experience. This is their baby. Yeah. So I don't know, you guys might be a little young, but David Letterman on the Tonight Show used to do the top 10 list. So I'm going to run through a few things here and try to be funny. Everyone told me I had a great face for radio. So here we go. Top 10 ways to tank your business value. Number 10, unresolved legal and tax issues. Nothing says welcome like an IRS love letter. Number 9, messy books. If your accountant cries during tax season, the buyers will too. Number 8, high employee turnover. Your office shouldn't feel like a speed dating event. If these are not funny, just tell me, because
we've seen it, a lot of it, all of these things so far, and we're only 3 deep.
No SOPs. If Ask Steve is your operations manual, Steve better be immoral. Number 6, the owner's too evolved. If you're the CEO, janitor, and IT help desk, it's not a business, it's a hostage situation. The number 5 way to tank your business value, if the Smithsonian calls about your machinery, it's not a compliment. Number 4, declining revenue. Flat is the new up, only works in yoga classes. All right. I'm trying, guys. I'm trying. And number 3 way to tank the business value is with an uncertain lease. Buyers don't want to play, where's my business going to be next year? Number 2, customer concentration. When a client sneezes and your revenue catches pneumonia. All right. And the number 1, let me do my number 1 way to tank your business is no middle management. If the chain of command is you talking to yourself, we have a problem.
Yeah.
It's awesome too.
Perfect.
All right, I'm not really funny. I'm better business broker than comedian.
Why can't it be both?
You were good. They were good. Well, that brings me to a question I wanted to ask you guys, just to get your perspective, because you said that was your number 1 in your top 10 is hiring middle management or having a team in place. That can be a scary thing to an entrepreneur, especially if you've gotten into the business because it's something you're good at or something you love to do. You even said in your case study that the person you were working with ended up hiring someone over the course of a couple years.
Mm-hmm.
What do you tell your business sellers if they're kind of anxious about that or not something that they've put in place yet?
I can relate to that personally. That was a struggle for our business because if you're passionate about it, you want to hold on to it, you want to control it, you want to see it done your way. So that's definitely a hard thing to let go. A lot of what we do is we have those conversations. We're business brokers, but we're also a little bit of psychologists. We help understand what that would mean stepping back, help them think and process through it. And not only will it result in more revenue, a higher, return for the business, but it'll give them peace of mind knowing that their business is being run and taken care of. So it's going to definitely take some time, some trial. You might hire someone, it might not work out. You spend nothing more frustrated than training someone for 6 months or a year and then it doesn't work out, but you got to try. Otherwise, the alternative is your business may never transfer. It might just close. And that's fine for some people. But if your intention is to sell, cash in, pass on your legacy, then you're going to want to start thinking those things. And they're hard for sure.
Yeah, and I think hiring, a manager or, kind of beefing up your team a bit doesn't always have to mean that the business owner is taking a step back. It just means, you're delegating tasks to different people instead of feeling like you're doing everything yourself. Rely on a team to help you with tasks. Doesn't mean that you're not doing anything or you're not involved in the day-to-day. But I think for business owners too, it's also important for them to realize that frees up their time to maybe grow the business. Maybe they can go out and get more clients. Maybe they can, have time to do some continuing education. They can have time to do different things that can help grow the business as opposed to being so ingrained in the day-to-day that they don't have time to think about those things. So it's not always taking a step back. It's more, delegating, freeing up their time for more important things as the business owner.
And with standard operating procedures in place, it can make it a little easier. Here, follow this path, do this. So, but yeah, that is a hard one for sure. Yeah. And sometimes that's promoting someone within that you already kind of know and trust, and then getting that person to train. So there's all sorts of ways to do it. A lot of times there's employees involved in the business that might be good candidates to purchase the business. We can assist with exploring those types of things. And, he doesn't have the money or she doesn't have the money. Like maybe banks love those kind of lending situations, where an employee involved in the business in the industry. The banks look at a few different criteria, but relevant experience is one of them. Financial assets, things like that is of course another. They want to know you have the ability to complete this. So there's a lot of buyers out there. There's a lot of people looking to, sell their business. We just try to match them up.
What about seller finance deals?
We get asked that a lot. We prepare our sellers you're going to get asked that same question. There's a lot of stuff on the internet now that teaches entrepreneurs how to buy a business, no money down, 100% seller financing. The reality of it is if you have a good business that's cash flowing positive, you really don't need to do seller financing. Excuse me. We'll get a bank to lend on it. A buyer would typically come to the table with, let me just give I guess it would be a common example. You got $1 million business. The buyer comes to the table with $100,000, 10%. They ask the seller to hold a 10% seller financing note, and we get the bank to loan on 80% of it. So the seller's getting 90% of their cash at closing, and they're holding a 10% note. Sometimes that's referred to as like call me back money. If you have a problem, they're going to call you back because they're still holding $100,000. So then you can negotiate the term, the interest rate, things like that. So if the business is strong, you really don't need to go above 10 or 20% seller financing. But it is becoming a thing that buyers are repeatedly asking for. It's just how much. If your business is really, on the downward trend and has some hurdles, you could use seller financing as a way to possibly get more for the business, but you're taking a huge risk. So there's a time and a place for it. It's not every deal. And as someone who often represents the sellers, we don't recommend it. And if so, it's a small percentage.
I guess because there's less to secure it as compared to a property deal. There could be property, there could be equipment, something to attach to it as collateral, but otherwise it's basically an unsecured loan.
Yeah, and the bank makes you sit in second position to their loan.
Mm-hmm.
So you're definitely low man on that totem pole to collect your money. In fact, in certain situations, you can't even start collecting that till after the loan has been satisfied.
Yeah.
So, yeah, not our ideal situation, but sometimes we call that the deal structure.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes to get the deal done, you structure it a certain way, and that's a piece of it sometimes.
Yeah. Very fascinating.
Yeah. We appreciate you guys asking us to do this and giving us the opportunity to share some of our knowledge with other business owners.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is this is going in our vault for any of our clients to watch, and whether they're ready to sell next week, next month, next year, or a decade from now, this is who they're going to turn to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're just happy to help.
Do not start next month. Start today. Jen, any books that you'd read? Like I always talk about the E-Myth as like the required reading for any business owner. What do you got that is along that line that somebody might want to check out?
Oof, there's a lot of good ones. So there is actually a book, Built to Sell. That's a great one. It's kind of the idea that from day one you should be structuring your business and running your business as you're going to sell it. So it kind of takes away a lot of the scrambling, right? The things that you don't have to fix it if you've been doing it the right way from day one. So I think that's a great book for any business owner, any entrepreneur, even someone who's not really thinking about selling yet. But it's a great book to prepare you for the future.
So we got Built to Sell by John Warrillow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Got it.
Ed,
what's your required reading?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there for sure, and a lot of young, we call them like corporate refugees, but buyers that are looking to leave their corporate job, kind of control their own destiny. We always advise them, you're not going to be a perfect business out there, but find that little diamond in the rough, find something you're passionate about, like I said, and then, plan on spending some time to build it, nurture it, develop it into what you want, scale it to a place where you don't need to be there. So we often tell people, don't rule out this business because of X, Y, or Z. You got to almost see past that first year and look at that, because there's a lot of great business out there, but it hasn't for the past 5 years. Someone's been tired, or maybe health issues or something like that. Like not every business is going to be perfect. So we always tell our buyers, don't shy away from the diamond in the rough type business. Sometimes they're out there. We're searching for them. And everything's going to have some risk. It's just, what's your tolerance?
Yeah, it's like a reverse Shark Tank.
Yeah. Exactly. And Shark Tank, we often make jokes because everyone, they do their valuations on the spot. They're like, oh, you're looking for this. It's, so you're estimating your business is worth $5 million. Like, it's not really how valuations work. There's so many different variables to consider. Certainly that's like a high level rule of thumb you can do, but often that kind of skews sellers into thinking, their business is 1 year's sales, not necessarily, or things like that. So, and there's different reasons for valuations. Sometimes you'll do it for like a partner split up, or, whatever reason, someone looking to sell their business, you would take a market approach. So all different reasons to do valuations. And when you're bringing it to market, you want to obviously look at comparable sales.
Is that a situation that you two would be involved with? Like like I know that's technically an attorney's position, but as far as maybe a business separates into two and somebody else wants to buy one, I don't know. Anything like that occur?
We would assist with evaluation in that situation, but you're right. That's a business attorney to figure out the split.
Missy, any final thoughts or cues?
Yeah, I did have two things I just really gleaned from your presentation. And the first one was that Evaluation can be helpful in when we're thinking about retirement and what we're going to be able to have in our coffers at retirement. Because I'm kind of in the age right now where I'm just wanting to make sure my retirement is good and taken care of and like going to be solid for me in a couple decades. But yeah, I didn't even think about that. Like, what's the value of my business and what can I rely on to add to the pile for when I'm done working? And then with that being said, I just am just hearing you guys talk and all the knowledge and experience that you have. It sounds like if someone is thinking about eventually, maybe they want to sell their business, even if it's not next year. Sounds like you guys are a good resource and a good place to start when someone's thinking that may be what they want to do.
Yeah, we say it's never too soon to have a conversation.
Right. Absolutely.
Not waiting till the last minute, like, all right, I'm ready to get out of here. Let's get this done now.
Right.
Well, I mean, the big thing is you want to sell your business on an upward slope. You can get more money. There's more opportunity for buyers. You're in a bad position when it's trending down. That's when things like seller financing, the buyers think they have leverage. So it might just be a timing thing. It might be a planning thing. But yeah, we're happy just to share our knowledge. Like Dan was saying, there's no, I'm very generous with my time. Anyone can just pick up the phone and call me and we'll have a conversation and offer some advice. We'd like to keep it local to the, mid-Atlantic, PA, New Jersey area. We're in obviously Bucks County. So a lot of times we got to be on site. You got to drive to these businesses to do site visits, things like that. So we are local and we do believe in supporting our local business owners. Both of us have a lot of volunteerism behind us. So yeah, anything we can do to support the local business community, we're happy to help.
That's awesome. That's so value first, value represented. So I will say this then, this is somebody's business and they may not be willing to, I guess, open up about it yet. And if that's the case, we do have a resource right from your website, vrbuckscounty.com. It's the booklet, the white paper, the VR guide on selling your business. So I've dropped that in there. It's going to be on our blog. Take a look at that if you're a conversation averse business owner and you just want some information. And that way it'll get you in the door there and start making some moves today.
Good point.
That's great.
Well, I guess that might be it for Q&A. And this is my fault since I embed the YouTube into our website, and I have no problem saying this live and in perpetuity, is that there's no comment feature when you embed on the website. So it gives people an out to not participate, but it does increase the viewership. So there's the tip for anybody doing StreamYard. If you want to get more people to view, you don't have to bind it to an event or a Facebook page. You can embed it in your website, but you'll lose participation. It's a trade-off. We do that every day. All right.
You guys are great. We appreciate you having us do this.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Such a valuable resource. So much for any business of any size, no matter what state they're in. Even when they're just getting started, to think about these things. Think about the exit. Think about the exit strategy and start now. Start today.
Yeah, at least, if you don't want to take a proactive approach, just don't let some of these other things slip on you.
Right. All right, cool. So start small. You have your required reading. You have your recommended reading. Start small, start fast, start today. Again, thank you, Jen. Thank you, Ed. VR Business Brokers, VR Business Sales, Bucks County.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.